All right. Good morning, guys. This is Jonathan Tripp, your host of Blab Nation. This is our first episode for 2016, and we are really starting it off. We started off pretty top level this morning. We have a special guest, Bonnie Frank, and I am so super psyched that she's going to be here. And we're talking about a topic I think is so right up her alley, and I cannot wait to hear what she has to say. So, good morning, Bonnie. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm great. I'm very happy to be here.
Great. And by the way, thank you everybody that's already joined us in the fan seats. And by the way, Bonnie, that is what I call them. They're fan seats. I know other people call them the cheap seats or the box seats or the listeners. I call them the fan seats because I love it how they participate, because really this is kind of one of those these group of people. They actually ask a lot of questions and they do a lot of follow. So first off, right off the bat, would you put somewhere where they can connect with you right in the chat? Just put a link in there, whether if it's a website, because I think it's really important that people, both as they get to see you, but they also know how to get a hold of you, because I know that not everybody knows who you are. So would you just do us a quick little favor and just tell us about you, your business, or what you do, and maybe something kind of interesting?
Sure. Okay. So hi, I'm Bonnie Frank, and I met Jonathan and Leland right where we are. I met them on Blab. So I'm a former teacher and college professor turned entrepreneur. And everybody knows me as Bonnie L. Frank. So people know me from Periscope and from Blab. So if you've ever heard of me, it's because of those two platforms. My business is built off of live streaming, and all of my clients, customers, everything comes from those two platforms. And I readily tell people I was on 10 other social media platforms for 14 months without any business, which is slightly embarrassing, but it's part of my story. And then I got on Periscope, and 6 days later landed my first client, and it has absolutely snowballed from there. So I'm proof positive that live streaming works.
So let me ask you this: is that I know you, I know your story because I know who you are, and that was one of the reasons why I thought it would be great to have you on. And just to talk to you this morning, and we'll kind of get to a couple of the questions and comments already forming in the chat. One of the questions I had for you is that I know you said, like you were on for like months and months and months, and then you made the switch over to live stream. But let me ask you this: do you feel that any of that time that you spent, and I'll just call, grinding away on the other social media platforms, do you think that they spent that there was any value that you got in terms of like either notoriety or maybe experience of actually doing the grind, that when you finally arrived on live stream, that you had already done all the foundational work and you just hit it home with live stream? Do you feel that was the case with live stream, or do you feel like it was like all the rest was just garbage and now live stream is just the way to go?
Yeah, I don't think that it was garbage. I don't look at, I have always lived a life of no regrets. I don't understand why people have regrets. Just do what you're supposed to be doing, what you want to do, think carefully about what you do, and then there's no reason to ever have regrets. So I don't regret that. It would have been nice if I would have had some clients during that time. And grinding is a perfect way of describing what I was doing every day, day after day. I don't consider it a waste, and experience is what you get when you don't get a job or when you don't make money, right? It's called experience. So I would say I was definitely having experience. But I am telling you, I was basically invisible. It's not that there was no notoriety, Jonathan. It's that nobody realized I was there at all, because I had, and that's the only way I can describe it, because I had exactly the same goods and services for sale, and I was exactly the same person with exactly the same message as when I got on Periscope. It's the difference of the platform, and that the audience that was there was ready to hear was ready to hear my message. And evidently, my copywriting skills suck. So, because clearly it wasn't working for me.
Right, right.
And when I started my business, I had no money. I didn't have anyone. I had no money to hire a coach. I didn't have money to hire a copywriter, but I also didn't want to be relying on a copywriter for every single thing that I put out there. I wanted to learn how to do it myself. So live streaming has definitely helped.
Yeah, I remember personally when before I had really done anything live. I mean, I have done videos and things like that, and I've done public speaking, so it's not like a complete introvert, starting from literally nothing. But I will say this: once I started getting on Periscope and talking and interacting and learning how, it was a grind. There was a point where it was. I mean, there were some really awful ones. There, you won't find them, but there were some really awful ones where and I remember this, when Periscope was kind of first coming out, people would start their Periscope, right? They would click it, and then you would see them fumbling around with the camera, and then they're just staring blankly at it, and then they look down and they see
that's
the little.
What people do in Facebook Live now.
It's great because those people that have gone through the actions, they have practiced it, and they know that once they hit start, that's not the time to get ready. You hit start and you're starting. It's like at a race, when the gun goes off, you don't get set to go, you go. And a lot of people don't understand that yet. They're still waiting for the interaction instead of being proactive and making the interaction happen by leading. And that's one of the things I will say this, Bonnie, I actually learned that from watching you, because the number of Periscopes and live events that you do, if you don't catch you live, you're missing out. It's a little different when I watch something kind of like recorded, or I watch a replay. Watching you live, I don't know, there's just something different. And that was one of the big things I really learned from you really early on, is that hit start and start. Don't hit start and get ready.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Now,
no one wants to see you get ready.
No, honestly, it's embarrassing.
No,
it's embarrassing after the fact. I mean, you feel the pressure on, but it's embarrassing after the fact. Now, so let me ask you this. Now, I know one of the things that you do masterminds, and that's kind of one of the topics that we want to talk about. Now, could you tell me what is your mastermind about?
So I have 2 different masterminds that I offer. And actually, I'm offering them right now. And I told Jonathan Leland, I said, I kind of messaged him on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, by the way, I have a mastermind that meets exactly 1 hour after we start. So I'll be hopping off kind of on time, because I thought, oh my God, if he has an extra large mug, right, exactly. I'm like, oh my God, he might be waiting for it to be like a really long thing. And I'm like, oh no, I can't.
I figured 2 hours easy. I figured for sure. So I went and got my biggest mug.
So you got a measuring cup.
You know that I'm more than happy to, if I have the time, I am more than happy to keep the blab going. You guys know that. But I'm like, oh, I have to hop off right on time. So, okay. So my masterminds, I put the link in there where you can read about the masterminds. I offer 2 of them. One is a business mastermind, and one is a live streaming mastermind. And David.
Don't mind David. He's going to be full of gifts today, I'm sure.
My hand is like this over. I can't not look at that. I'm sorry. Oh, my God. So I can't look away. The bottom line for both of them, and the bottom line for everything that I do for people, whether they ever end up being my client, is I want to help as many people as I can start and build their businesses. As many people as I possibly can. And like I said before, when I started my business, I started with no money and no support. And I still do everything myself, but that's because I don't know how to delegate, not because I don't have the money to pay them. And so I just would prefer to spend 25 hours, a day doing it myself. But so I know how hard it can be. I know how confusing it can be. The second I opened my business, I felt like right away, everybody was telling me I had to do 2 things. I had to get a coach which I didn't for a very long time. And I had to join a mastermind. And I was like, why do I need a coach? What is all this coaching stuff about? And what I need to join a mastermind now? And so when I started looking at the masterminds that I could find online, it was a very long time commitment to me, 6 months, a year, 2 years, up to $10,000 or $15,000 for a mastermind. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I definitely didn't have the money to do that. And I refused to go into debt. So people are like, well, why didn't you just use your credit card? Well, I wasn't going to do that. So, so I always, if I don't have the money to pay for something, I simply don't buy it. That's kind of the way I live. It's very old school, I guess. But, so I was like, and how did these people sign up for 2-year commitments for something? That just seems like, I don't want to sign up for 2 years. So why would I create a situation for other people, for them to sign up for 2 years? So I created a mastermind situation, 2 of them, where they're only 8 weeks long and it's affordable for people. And I loaded up with a lot of value. So in one of them, I train people on Periscope and Blab and with the Full Scope app. And I train them to utilize those tools effectively so that they can make money online.
Sure.
And then my business mastermind, we do a lot of work on ideal client avatar, because if that's not carved out, you're not going to be attracting who you want, and you're not going to be making the money you want. And then I provide a lot of other training based on the areas that the participants tell me they want to focus on, based on a survey that I give them day one. And so once again, that is so they can, build their business and make money online. That one includes private one-on-one coaching. The other includes my 2 guides, Blab Like a Pro and Scope Like a Pro. Yep. And they both include full access to my membership site.
Which, if I know you, Bonnie, about 2.5 feet this way, you should have a copy of one right on your desk. If I'm not mistaken.
Right here.
Oh, I knew it.
There it is.
So, and you know what?
I was like, should I pick them up? But
oh yeah. No,
right,
because it's kind of like writing a book. You write the book, you have it. You're like, hey, I've got a book. I wrote a book. I did this. And I mean, if you were like Morgan, Morgan Ingram, he'll have read it in about 2 hours. But that's a totally different thing. But but Bonnie, so my experience, and Leland, I don't know if have you ever done a mastermind event or a course or anything like that?
I have not personally, but I have been involved with a lot of people who actually put together masterminds. When I started back, it was at the end of 2012 when I actually got deep into marketing on the internet as a whole. And when I did, I got involved with a bunch of really high-end marketers, some people who really know their ropes. It was when webinars were really just kicking into high gear and everybody was starting to understand how much money was to be made in webinars. So there was a lot of, there's a lot of talk out there of how to run internet marketing. And Bonnie, I think you and I are very similar in regards to the fact that we feel we got to do it all ourselves. We're not ones that like to delegate work to others. I'm the kind of guy that used to sit there like this all day long. It was just, I'm going to learn this by myself. I don't need somebody else to do it for me. So it was one of those things that did keep me in the same position. It slows you down a little bit. And masterminds definitely are the kind of thing that can kick it up a notch. And you have that motivational push from someone else to say, no, look, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this, or at least give you ideas for other things that you have in your head that you just can't pull out of there to put on paper or put it into action and things like that. So there's definitely that aspect to masterminding that I see I kind of play with myself. And it's not as though I call it a group or I charge for it or anything like that. I really tend, and even what Jonathan and I here on Blab do is somewhat of a mastermind. We get all these people together in the seats, and we're not here to charge them money. We're not here to sell them anything, but we're here to collaborate on all the issues that we're all having. So that's really what the purpose of the mastermind is. And, I've seen some people take it, like you said, to the extreme where they're charging $15,000 for a 6-month or a 1-year mastermind. that to me, I think is a little bit high end, and I don't think that's necessary. But if that's what the people think they're worth, and that's what they're going to put out on the market, and hope that the market will bear it, fine. That's up to them. I just wouldn't feel good about doing that for myself. So I think what you're doing is wonderful, because you are kind of that. You're reaching out to the average person who can't afford the big masterminds, and you're giving the best quality that you have, and you're giving everything of yourself. You're not putting someone else in a chair and saying, well, go sit with my so-and-so and they'll take care of you. You're the one taking care of it. So I really do appreciate that's what you do out here.
David says in the comments, I don't know if you see, he says, I'm sitting here listening to the blab through my computer speakers, but wearing my headphones. He needs coffee. And the reason why I brought that completely, what seemingly random thing up is this, okay? We're talking about masterminds. We're talking about, these things, because I've had a couple experiences with different types and different styles of mastermind. And I really wanted to ask you why, in one of our first comments out here, kind of address this issue, right? Where I've been in the concentrated, like it's been like 2, 3, maybe 4 days of mastermind event. I mean, and you're going from the morning to the evening, and it is intense. I mean, you walk away and you're just like, you don't want to talk business. Yeah. You just need to get out. You just need to get out and like breathe some like normal air, not like the air conditioned refresh. But then there's the other kind where it's like, and this is more modeled after yours, where it's a shorter time, but it's over a longer period of time. And I didn't know if you had an opinion, or maybe there's a reason why you structured your masterminds the way that you do, as opposed to, a 2 or 3, 4 day event. Do you have what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I'm a wife and a mom. And when I leave, all hell breaks loose. Let me tell you. So I don't leave much. And, I mean, I fully understand that women travel. I fully understand that women leave their families at home. My kids are only kids once, and I have one that's already in college and one who's 17. And so like I had a choice. I had my ticket for Periscope Summit. I had my hotel booked. I got the hotel where where it's taking place. I was looking into plane reservations, and then my son got a basketball game scheduled at that time. Well, that's it. Then I'm not going to go. I mean, there's no decision to be made. There's no, what do I do? It's like, oh, well, I'm not going to miss his basketball games. He's only going to have that basketball game once at that time. So, and obviously his coach did not look into my Periscope Summit plans before scheduling
they didn't
that.
consult you ahead of time, which was a planning mistake on their
part. I don't understand why he didn't, but he didn't.
Right. So I do get it. And so from a facilitator point of view, and we realize this, and I appreciate this, that, you're building your business around what you need, and what your availability is. We can always, reread and replay a live event, but, a live stream event. But we don't always have the opportunity to do it in real person. We can always watch the replays for a basketball game if it's all like on TV, but there's really something different when you're live at the event. And I know for our kids and our families, it's a really big and it's a really important factor, especially for children, that they do see it. So I appreciate you, with your, with the saying, look, I have to make a choice. And, so my choice, I'm going to do this. Now from a business perspective, putting together a mastermind event, and I'm scrolling, I'm trying to scroll all the way back up, and David Kutcher had a really interesting comment. And I know he's not I don't think he's in the room right now, but his comment reads this. This is the problem with most mastermind groups is that if you're looking to join and get accepted, chances are it's not filled with the people you need to surround yourself with. Now, I bring that comment out because I know you have one, and also I know somebody else that in the fan section already has, they do a mastermind group. So let me ask you this. Is it like open enrollment, or are you selective, or maybe now it's not the right time? How do you
Yeah. So, okay. So I don't offer them every 8 weeks around the clock, right? I don't do that throughout. I offer 8 week live streaming and business masterminds. If I did them 8 weeks, 8 weeks, 8 weeks, 8 weeks, I would exhaust myself because I put a lot into them. And so when you go to the page, I put that in there, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see past the testimonials, you'll see an application. So I vet my applicants very carefully. And that is because my masterminds, or I should say, one of the reasons my masterminds are so effective is because of how carefully I vet my applicants. It's not just open to anybody. You don't just sign up and pay like you would an event. It's not like that. You can sign up and pay, that's fine. But if your application is not such that I want you, basically, because you're not going to be providing the value for this particular group at this particular time, then you simply won't be in the mastermind. It is just that simple. So, and I always tell my people, basically, it's first come, first serve. So if you are the first one to be accepted in the mastermind, the synergy of that mastermind is going to be developed around you. So if Leland's the first one to sign up for my business mastermind, and he's not, but if he is, then this time, right, then literally I would build the entire mastermind around him. And so if other people were signing up who were not going to be, for whatever reason, based on their application and based on how I know them, because now I know a lot of the people who are applying from live streaming, then I said, I would simply say it's not right at this particular time. So my idea of a mastermind is a different model. And what made me choose the model, David, is that I never do things the way everyone else does. When I was a teacher, when I was a professor, I never did. When my kids were little, I had their toys divided in terms of multiple intelligences. And I made sure that they were using all 7 at that time, multiple intelligences every day. I didn't give my kids flashcards. I didn't do all the things that a lot of people do. I never did. And people, I don't fit in a group. I don't fit in a model. I've always taken an eclectic approach to every single thing that I do. And so I created a mastermind situation that I would have wanted, that I wish to God existed when I started business. I created one that's affordable. I created one that is that includes my membership site, which is a private Facebook group plus an endless resource library. The endless resource library, I call it that because I add to it every week. So right now, as of today, there's 151 products in there that help you start and grow your business, and I created all of them. And by the end of the 8 weeks, there will be many more in there.
Sure.
So I create a situation with a load of support to help people succeed, so that by the end of the 8 weeks, they have accomplished exactly what they wanted to.
And your main focus in that, in each one, because you run the two differently and not concurrently. They're not at the same time. So you're not doing a business mastermind and a live stream mastermind. You're not doing those at the same time, are you? Or are you?
Not on the same day, but I am running them on the same
so you
time.
do run
I have
them
3 masterminds running at once.
Okay. Yeah. And you focus primarily just on building your business, and then also on teaching people how to actually live stream effectively for their business. Not just like, hey guys, this is how you get on. I'm sure that's part of your course, part of your training. It's, it's the presentation as well as the kind of that taking that next level. It's like learning how to blog, but how do you blog to reach your audience? That's a totally different concept.
Right. My goal for everybody, whether or not they ever become my client, is for them to make money. For them, if they're already making money, then I want them to make more money. If they haven't made any money, then I want them to make money. That is my goal for them. That's the bottom line. I make no bones about the fact that I do this for a living, that I do this for money. So even though I am on Periscope 3 times a day, on the average 3 times a day, and I'm on Blab on the average once a day. So that's 28 live stream broadcasts a week. Yes, it really is. But I do all that because my business comes from there. So guys, if your business comes from Twitter, wouldn't you be spending more time on Twitter? Of course you would.
Right.
So, you know, it's just that it seems a little weird because it's live streaming, and that maybe to some people is a little weird right now. I don't know, but that's working for me. So when I go on Periscope 3 times a day, and I haven't been on yet because I wanted to make sure to, you know, like be on time today. So, so when I go on Periscope today, during the 3 times, I'll be talking to people who are never going to be my clients. And I know that, and that's totally okay. Totally okay. I will also be talking to people who have already been my clients, and I will be talking to people who are currently my clients.
Okay. So real quick, and Mr. Millionaires D has a question, but I want to ask my question first real quick, because I know you say you're on. Do you feel that Periscope is declining in its reach and effectiveness? Okay.
Not in my numbers.
And you use it, and that's I'm asking you as the user. I mean, you're like you said. I mean, on average, you're on 3 times a day. You know, I mean, so you're producing a lot of content as far as like live streaming goes. So I wanted to ask that question because I've heard a lot of people like, they just don't get it on, and you know, and so they're just not sure. But I think, honestly, I think the number one problem is that they don't commit. They don't commit to actually using the platform.
That absolutely, that absolutely is. And like Jonathan, when you were talking about the learning curve at the beginning, right? So I got on Periscope after doing a disastrous job on 10 other social media platforms. I mean, it was awful. It was, you know, and my husband would come to me about every 2 weeks. I mean, I could clock it about every 2 weeks. And he would stand over as I was furiously on my computer trying to do something to make some money. And he would recommend another job that I could be doing to make money. And I'd be like, And then he would leave and I would go back to work because I was like, I'm going to make this thing work. I knew, exactly. Yes, honey, right. Okay. And
I appreciate you.
But I would appreciate you in the other room right now as I want to get this done. So, I mean, and exactly. Like, Michelle said, get in where you fit in. Yeah. So I felt like I fit in better with Periscope. And you know what? If Periscope wasn't going to work, I was going to try platform number 11. Which ended up being Blab, and that worked also. But I mean, I was going to keep going until it worked. I didn't question my abilities. That's something that also makes me different. I never questioned my abilities. I just hadn't found the way yet. It's like Thomas Edison says, right? So he screwed up 10,000 times, but that light bulb thing, that worked pretty good.
Right. That turned out pretty good.
And that's kind of along the lines, Bonnie, and I think you hit it on the head a few times in that little talk that you had, that I don't even know where I had my thoughts going here for a second, but I know the way you run your mastermind is very unique. And I do, like I said, appreciate that you are very hands-on with that, because what I do see, and I'm not trying to knock people out there who do these masterminds, but when somebody is first come, first serve with, if you got the $5,000 to sit down and talk with us, then you've got issues as to what their motivation is. You know, is their motivation to really help the person, or is it just to get their $5,000? Now, I have to say that because there are a lot of really bad masterminders out there. So I'm just trying to give a kudos to the fact that you are so hands-on and you have taken a unique approach to this concept, because it's not everyone out there. And everyone wants to say, I'm going to come up with a mastermind because I know I can make a lot of money at it. Well, if that's your purpose, if that's the reason you're coming up with a mastermind, you might want to think it over again, because that's not really what. And it's
kind of funny you bring that up, because Frank Clark, who's in the room, I've heard him say this, I don't know how many times. He's like, look, if you want to just make money, like if you're just in it to make money, he says, don't do this. He says, just get in finance. Like don't do this. Like don't teach. Don't be a writer. He says, if you're just in it just for money and he says, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing intrinsically wrong about trying to make money.
Absolutely.
He says, just go into finance. That's where you make money at. And I was like, I love it because he's really just pointing to the fact of, look, if you're going to be in this arena right here, what we're doing, whether it's on live or coaching or, through social media, guys, you got to love it. You have to have a real deep passion for it because honestly, there's going to be days. I mean, you guys, just like the stock market, there are days where it's like going great, and there are other days where it's just like dead. Yeah. I mean, you can't even you can't make a dent. You can't get anybody just to be like, hey, no
likes, right. No retweets, none of that going on. It's like, where's everybody at? But and I feel scatterbrained today. Maybe it's too much of this coffee today. Look, I'm already down here. No, just. It is a new year, but no, I appreciate too that you're vetting these students in such a way that you are focused on what it takes to put certain people together. Because I have seen masterminds completely crash because there are opposing views and there are opposing personalities, and all of that are involved in this supposed mastermind group, when really it's just a conglomerate of people from every end of the earth that wanted to, like I said, give them their money and sit down and try to talk business, and they just don't work that way. So again, another point on the chalkboard, I think, for the way that you've approached that, because it is huge. You do need to pre-screen. If you don't pre-screen your mastermind, then you're not taking the necessary mistake.
Exactly. And so people are like, okay, so it sounds maybe good, or I don't know. So what kinds of people are in our mastermind? So I'll give you a very good example. So my very first mastermind was a perfect example of the type of people who sign up. In my first mastermind was Becky Anderson. She goes by Becky J. Anderson on Blab and Twitter. And if you're not following her, you should be, because she is a woman to know. I met her on Periscope. And as I do all my clients, either Periscope or Blab. And she had been, coming to my scopes and following me and making nice comments. And, so I was like, oh, okay, great. And then she signed up for my first mastermind that I gave. And I was like, oh, well, that's nice. And I didn't know anything about her because her profile didn't really say much. I knew she sold candles and that was about it. And so the first time I actually met her was on Zoom on day one of the mastermind. And so I use zoom.us, which is amazing. And if you guys haven't checked it out, check it out. I use that for all my masterminds. I use it for any group coaching I do. I use it for my one-on-one coaching, and I use it for all of my webinars. So on Zoom, you see everybody just like this. It's like Blab, but you can have up to 100 in the room, the one that I have. And so I saw her. She was sitting at her desk, no big deal. And directly behind her was her Ernst & Young Award. Now, they give one of those a year to anybody in the world. One. And she had that award. Now, it was way back there. You could not clearly see anything that it said, but I knew what it was because I know what it is. And I saw that and I was like, oh, expletive. This woman signed up for my mastermind. And so Becky is somebody who started and sold to multi-million-dollar corporations. And she was transitioning into creating a consulting group and a membership site. And so she wanted to take my mastermind to figure out how to do that. Well, she was in the mastermind with people who had not started their businesses yet. She was in there with somebody who did direct sales. She was in there with someone who had a business but wanted to grow it more. They'd been in business for a couple of years. So I have a lot of different people taking my masterminds and a lot of different people in the same group. I like an eclectic mix of people, even if people are like, oh, well, I had some woman say, and I love this. I love using this example. I won't use her name, but I so want to. But she was like, well, I've been in business for 15 years. Okay, Becky had been in business for 25 years. 2 multi-million-dollar corporations. Anyway.
So she's done this before.
Yeah, it doesn't even begin to describe Becky. And if you talk to her, you would hear about her grandkids. You wouldn't hear about anything else. It's very interesting. Anyway, so one woman said, well, I've been in business for 15 years and I don't want to be in a mastermind if you're going to have people who are just starting out in business. And I said, okay, well, then you won't be in my mastermind. That's okay. Yeah. And guess what? That woman is at the exact same place in her business that she was when I started my very first mastermind months ago. So if you want to grow your business, if you want to reach the goals that short-term and long-term that you set forth for yourself, you can do all of that in 8 weeks in my mastermind. But there are going to be different kinds of people there.
So this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up in terms of terminology. We talk about a mastermind as opposed to a work group, and some people use those terms very interchangeably. And I saw some people were referring to it in the comments in the chat section. Actually, it's one of the questions up here that Aaron had asked. So I knew I see it somewhere. But I've been involved with masterminds, and to me, a mastermind is more of a presentation. But from a group or from a variety of experiences, right? Where maybe somebody has a specialist or somebody like that, like somebody, I'm just going to use the social media world where they bring in somebody who's really great at YouTube and another person who's really good at copywriting, for email marketing and things. And they do those kind of like around as opposed to where it's one speaker talking about different things, right? And that's been my experience with masterminds. I have not actually been involved where it's been like one person presenting on a variety of topics and, or taking through like almost like a coursework. And that seems to be more, Pani, how you're bringing it up. And I guess, so from the presenter side, I see you're both, you're facilitating, over a period of time, and that's a time investment and a money investment because, if you're doing like a weekend, like a 3-day concentrated event, you're getting everything right there. And then when you're done, maybe they offer some follow-up and things like this, but you're done. As opposed to like a 6 or 8 week where you get a little bit, you implement. You get a little bit, you implement. And maybe you didn't get last week's quite so well. You had a quick follow-up question. You're still growing. I find that to be very intriguing as far as the effectiveness, because you've now have 8 weeks to implement, not just a weekend to cram. And I really like that aspect of what you're doing, as opposed to, like I said, it's a weekend. You're dead tired. You're brain dead by the end of it. You're just absorbed as much as you can. And
I've seen some weekends. Go ahead, Bonnie.
I was just going to say, so, and like Karen said, like she's been in a mastermind before that was like brainstorming on a topic that everybody needs to work on. And I put in the definition somewhere in there. It's probably up now, but so Napoleon Hill created the whole notion of a mastermind in 1937 when he wrote Think and Grow Rich, which if you haven't read, then you should read. And I have a list of starter business books on my website, and a list of some starter podcasts on my website. And I will put that in there too. And Napoleon Hill's book is in there. So, because people are sometimes like, okay, so I want to start listening to podcasts, but what should I start with? Or do you have any good recommendations? And people ask me that all the time for books. So that's my list. And his definition is a little wordy and flowery and like not really how people talk now. And so basically it's just when 2 or more people get together. A mastermind is when 2 or more people get together to work on something they want to improve in some way. And they've decided this is the way they want to improve on, and they're going to work on it. That's what a mastermind is. Right. That's all a mastermind is. And a lot of masterminds you'll hear have a hot seat. And a hot seat means that if you're in the hot seat, then, that's your 15 or 20 minutes of your time, and everybody's firing ideas and information and websites and referrals at you, for whatever it is that you want to work on. You say, I want to work on X, or I'm here for help with Y. And then they start firing all these things at you. And I've been in that position before. I've been in lots of masterminds. I've facilitated loads of education masterminds. And I hate the hot seat. I don't want to be in the hot seat. I don't even like the words hot
Right.
seat. I don't like that terminology.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's not like I don't get it. I get it. And yes, that can be very effective. But once again, when I was creating something for my own people, I don't want to create a hot seat because I didn't want to be in the hot seat. So I don't want to put them in the hot seat either. So instead, I created a situation where every single week, everybody gets heard. Every single week, everybody can ask the questions that they want to. Every single week, you have enough time, 90 minutes, to get your questions answered because my masterminds are limited to 6 people. I won't have a mastermind larger than 6 people. I've done a lot of research, and the optimal numbers from the research that I've read are between 5 and 7. I chose 6 for obvious reasons. So, David said he's in the hot seat.
He is the hot seat. That's what he said. He says, I am the hot seat.
The hot seat.
Yeah. So let me ask you this just real quick about this because, I mean, we're talking about the hot seat, right? I mean, that's what the Shark Tank, that's what the show is. It's the hot seat.
All right.
I mean, you have I mean, it's not, I know it's sensationalized and those kinds of things, and that's not really my point. My point is that they're grilling these people, and it's like sometimes when they walk away, you're sitting there just going, they weren't ready. They were not ready for this. Yeah. And whether they were set up for that or not, I don't care. But you know that feeling, that sick feeling inside, we're just like, I wasn't ready for that. Wasn't ready for that. So, but let me ask you this. Your mastermind, so the way that you have it set up, how is that different, or maybe it's not, than just group coaching on a weekly basis? What's the difference for you?
Yeah, so the difference is everybody gets heard. Everybody talks, everybody gets heard, everybody gets benefit, and everybody gives benefit. Everybody gets feedback and everybody gives feedback. So I'll be honest with you, on session 1, so I have 8 sessions, right? So on day 1, session 1, I do most of the talking. By day 8, session 8, I'm like, hi, good morning. And that's about all I say because everybody else is just like so ready to go because of the synergy that has been created in the group. I mean, people make lifelong friendships in my masterminds. And so, yes, I have to do much more facilitating and also much more modeling in terms of this is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to work. Well, by session 8, they're like, oh, well, we don't even need you, Bonnie. Thank you for turning on, the mastermind. You're done now. Yeah. We don't really need you. But I'm there to, help answer any questions, whatever you want. So it's probably a big fat mix of everything, to be honest with you. But everybody gets heard. Everybody can comment. Everybody's comments get acknowledged. Everybody's questions get answered. Everybody gives feedback. Everybody gets feedback. And Ashley asked, how do I handle things like confidentiality and people using other people's ideas? I'll be very honest with you, Ashley. I don't attract people who would not respect other people's confidentiality. And I don't attract anybody who would be stealing someone else's ideas. I simply don't. I have a very, very, very good gut. And I do not tend to trust most people. I'll be very honest with you. And so Leland and Jonathan, you guys make the short list. But
But that is a good question. Yeah. I think Ashley addressed a very important topic when it comes to those who are thinking about starting their own masterminds, because if you don't really know the people you're getting involved with, you should probably have non-compete agreements or non-disclosure agreements set into place before they come in. But then what have you done? You've created a sense and an atmosphere of untrust right at the beginning. So you really have to understand that that's not the place for that. And if people are at a mastermind level, they should be beyond that already.
Well, and yes and no.
It's a good question.
So yes and no. I'll tell you, and Ashley, it's intuitive, but it's also more than that. So I have 6 lawyers and a judge in my family. I'm married to a lawyer. I actually hate all lawyers, in case you're wondering, because they're just god-awful people. So I'm married to a lawyer who also hates lawyers. Anyway. So he hasn't done law for a long time. So I get how all of that works. I definitely get it. And I say on day one that what comes from the mastermind stays in the mastermind. That right there is a verbal contract. If anybody screws with that, then I can sue them just from that. Yes, I can. Will I? Yes, I would if they went above and beyond. But you know what? I'm sorry, it's not going to happen, and I'm not being naive. I cannot tell you how much I vet. I cannot explain that enough. There's not enough time for me to go through that. And so based on referrals, based on how I know people, based on the application, and based on how, when I talk to the people who are wanting to participate in my mastermind, it simply is not going to happen. But would I sue if it happened? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. And I say that with no hesitation. And I do mean in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So am I serious?
Yeah, you have to.
I absolutely
protecting your business.
Well, and I'm protecting my clients. It's not just my business,
Yes.
and it's not just my reputation. It's not just my brand. It's my clients. And I tell people that when they work with me, and I would do this honestly, even if you weren't working with me, but when they work with me, I literally tell them, do not spend a penny before you talk to me. I save my clients so much money and so much aggravation because there's so much crap out there that is like bright, shiny object to the hilt.
Right.
And people, they don't check. They're busy. They're not sure. Yes, the buy it now. Exactly. Yes, you buy it right now. And so they do. And then they're sorry and or confused later on. And so, I'm not like that. I don't attract those people, but would I go after them? In a heartbeat? And they would be shocked at that other side of me because you don't ever see any of that.
Right.
But am I going to protect them like nobody's business, like a pit bull on a stake?
Right.
And just one quick thing, Jonathan. I know you want to say something here, but what I've noticed, and just bringing up this button, I obviously made this as a mock of the business out there as we see it a lot of times, and I was involved in that end when I first started. I saw all the people who prepare all those types of programs that are the buy it now and the 10-item funnels that are so ridiculously expensive for nothing but a bunch of rehash that I got disgusted with it. But what I'm really trying to get the point out to a lot of people I deal with is I've been there. I know those ropes. So I pull people away from that as much as possible. And I hate to see people taken by that. But what I've discovered with live streaming is you won't find those people out here. They don't have the guts to come out here and live stream with any of us because they know that the facade comes off when they come out here to a live stream platform. There's just no way they can compete. Sure, they can do a webinar and hide behind a screen share and do a 1-hour presentation and make $10,000 in 2 hours. And I'm not knocking webinars. Webinars are a good thing. I really do like the platform. I used to sell a lot of overlays for WordPress to do Hangouts on Air as a webinar. So I'm in there. I've got developers rights for all that stuff. So I totally think it's a good platform. But when used wrong, a lot of people are losing their tail ends to these things. And I hate to see it done that way, especially when it's people who have no idea what they're getting involved in. So when you come to a live stream, and I think that's what's cool about like what you said with the Zoom.us, you have a platform where you are live streaming as a group. And my question really is, have you found that easier or harder, more difficult? And maybe I should ask you, have you done any live face-to-face masterminds yourself? And can you compare the two and tell me, is one easier than the other, or do you get better success with one over the other, like face-to-face versus live streaming?
No. I mean, yes, I have done them. I've done many of them. And no, I do not. I don't like one more than the other, and I don't get a bit better success from one or the other. And the masterminds that I have facilitated and that I've participated in live, those are also ones that I've done over a series of time because I was working full time at that time. So it was more, we're doing an hour, hour and a half each day for several weeks, or once a week for several weeks, that type of thing.
So I guess my point was I was trying to answer the question, which we have at the top, which says live streaming and mastermind groups. Do they work? So I think you've just answered that wholeheartedly, that it's really no different than sitting in on a face-to-face. It is producing the same exact results.
Yeah. And, it can be ineffective or it can be effective. You can have masterminds that are run well and masterminds that are not run well. Mine happen to be run well and effective. So, yeah. And so Ashley asked, how long is each session? Each session is 90 minutes. So it's 90 minutes once a week for 8 weeks. And I simply copied and pasted the information from the mastermind page on my website. And that's what I put in the chat.
All right. So Bonnie, this is the 10-minute warning for you.
I know. Can I just tell you, I'm a little bit pissed because I'm really sorry I have to go, because Jonathan and Leland know I love to just sit and rap with them, and I love it. So I'm a little mad at myself, Jonathan, that I scheduled my mastermind for 10 to 11:30 on Monday.
If you had thought about, very similar to the basketball coach for your kids, right? If they had actually done some planning ahead, you would have realized that there's a scheduling conflict. No, but
yes, I didn't. See, I didn't do my research, and I tell everyone to do the research.
But in all seriousness, this is going to be one of the things in 2016 that we're going to be doing, is that with some of our guests that we're going to be inviting them back to see in a few months of saying, hey, we talked to you then. We want to see how your business is doing now. What have you learned? What's changed? Or maybe what you've had to kind of tweak because something's not working, or it used to work and now it's not. And that's going to be one of those things. So, but my last question is this, and then I know you have to go and you have to prep and things like this. My last question is this. For anybody here that's either watching us live or that's going to be catching us on the recording, what would you say to anybody that maybe wants to start their own mastermind group? What would either some advice or some resources that you could point them to, including yourself?
So, yeah. So I'm definitely a resource, and I'll be more than happy to help anybody who wants to do that. And the very first question I will ask them is why they want to do a mastermind. And so my mastermind, everything I do, whether it's my mastermind or anything, goes back to my why, which is helping as many people start and grow businesses as I can. So that's why I do masterminds. That's why I do coaching. That's why I do courses. That's why I do 3 times a day on Periscope, all that. So the very first thing I would ask is, why do they want to do that? And then I would ask them, so how do they see that working? What does that look like, the mastermind that they're thinking about? And obviously we talked about lots of possibilities for masterminds. There's an unlimited amount of ways that you could do anything, including masterminds, in my opinion. So I would ask them about that. And I will definitely say that, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of preparation on the back end. And I don't, when the 90 minutes ends, so at 11:30 Central or 12:30 Eastern, today, when session 1 of this particular business mastermind has ended, I'm not done because I'm following up with those people. They know they have unlimited emails access to me. They have unlimited DM on Twitter. They have unlimited messaging on Facebook. Most of them already have my cell phone number. And so, yeah, I'm not even close to done.
Right.
And if they have any question, I'm there to answer them. If they need help with anything, I'm there to help them. So that's the way that I work. Would everybody do that? Absolutely not. I know that. I know they wouldn't. But if I were going to join a mastermind, I would want to be in a situation like that. So that's, I'm not going to do for someone else what I wouldn't want done for me. I simply wouldn't do that.
Oh, for sure. And you kind of include, and I'll just put it out there for those people who might not be familiar with the terminology, we have mentorship, coaching, and masterminds. Mastermind is obviously those of like-mindedness who want to get together and get things going, get the ball rolling. But what I see in your program is you're also including a sense of coaching and yet also some mentorship. Now, mentorship is one of those things that no one should ever have to pay for. Mentorship is something that comes freely from those who are experts in their field and they want to share their advice or their information with others. Coaching, obviously, you pay for. And you can pay for low-end cheap coaching, or you can pay for high-end expensive really good coaching. And there's always that in between. What Bonnie's providing in her mastermind is kind of a combination of all three is what I'm seeing. So keep that in mind, folks. If you're going to pay anyone to teach you how to get a business started, that there are these different ways. Don't let anyone charge you for mentorship. They can charge you for coaching and certainly for masterminds, but make sure you're getting the best of all these together if you can find them. So, great job, Bonnie. Great job.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, for joining us today. And I'm so glad that, that you've made yourself available as a resource, both as a sounding board, but also just kind of it helped. I think it puts a lot of perspective in people's minds as what they need to be doing to get to the next level. Even if for them, maybe it is to start their business, or maybe their next step is to start their own mastermind, but still you need somewhere to go. You need someone to talk to. And I really appreciate, thank you for coming on today. And being a part of that. So
absolutely. So I'm going to do two things. So I'm putting up, I can't talk and type at the same time. It's really a situation with me. It really is. And I keep trying and I keep failing. So you'd think I'd stop trying, but no, not me. So I put up in the chat that, people can DM me on Twitter. And I'm also going to put my link, which is right there, to my Calendly link. And you're going to have to copy and paste that for some reason. I don't know. Oh, there you go. Now it's live. So you can sign up for a 20-minute time to chat with me. And so people do that for two reasons. They do that to figure out if my programs are right for them at that particular time. And they also do it for free advice. So, and I do both readily. So if you do it for the free advice, and I'm there for that, then simply you tell me about your business for a minute or so, and then I give you some advice of what I think the next best steps for you would be. So if I were you, what the next two things that I would do would be. And that's what people do with that link. But you can also, or if you just want to chat, no, don't do that. But if you want to talk about business, you want to talk about anything, feel free to use that. All right. Thank you so much, you guys. Very much. Thanks. I loved it.
All right. What I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to pause the recording, and I know we got a bunch of questions, but we'll kind of let this go because you have your own event that you need to get to.
I do. I have my business. One of my business masterminds is starting in 3 minutes, so I should probably be there. Would maybe be a good idea.
All right. Well, Bonnie, thank you again so much. We will stay in contact because like we always have, and you're always welcome back here at Blab Nation. So, all right. Thank you, Bonnie.
We'll see
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.